9:35 Thursday. It is July 28th. Delaware. I'm Peter MacArthur. And welcoming in, as we do from time to time, and glad to have him, Chris Burkhard, Placer Staffing in Newark. And Chris, I'm glad we're talking this morning. I have to tell you, there are some elements right now of things happening that have me kind of upside down and sideways. And one of those, for instance, Chris, payroll numbers, which they're showing some pretty steady growth, but Labor Department's household survey numbers show the economy losing jobs. Can you kind of share what might be going on with the labor market right now?
Yeah, Pete, for the first time in a while, I think people would like my opinion, so I'm happy to give it. So the Department of Labor does two surveys each month. One is to businesses, and that one suggests the jobs are being created. But that survey is very consistent. It's slow to change, but it doesn't show a lot of anomalies or changes. The second one, they call our houses. And normally people ignore that one, economists, business people, because it has a lot of errors in it. But it's a really great tool that shows change really well. And, well, let's face it, right now it's a time of great change. And that household survey is showing that there are job losses. Well, the other one's showing gains. So it's all topsy-turvy. But let's face it, the world is really only focused on lowering inflation. And the job picture has been pretty darn good. Even unemployment claims this morning, they're up, but they're still not too bad relative to everything else that's going on during a crazy time of flux.
Something else that kind of occurs when one looks at the situation now, it seems like maybe a fairly sudden shift in the power dynamic, let's say, between employee and employer. A few months back, everyone was talking about the tight labor market and how workers could quit and go get another job that paid better, more fulfilling, and could get the kind of things that they wanted from their boss. How has this shifted with all that's happening with inflation and the stock market and war that's going on right now?
I think it's a good question. I have one thought for workers and one thought for employers or companies. It's been a kind of an interesting reset. The workforce does seem to have a little less confidence to ask for anything and everything. I'm going to work from home and I want a 10% or 20% raise. But frankly, Pete, the workforce is still in charge. And not all workers know how to harness that positioning, and I'll even call it power. Now, for businesses, man, it's been a real challenge to staff and find the right and enough people, and which means we're kind of coming off a 30-month period, almost 3 years now, where there's been artificially record low layoffs. I know layoffs are always nasty, right? But there's been such a need to hold on to workers. So that pattern was never really sustainable. And businesses now have the confidence that the job market is more balanced. And I think that's the key thing. It's not in anyone's favor right now. And frankly, demographics over the long term, there's still a lot less people that retired or are of the age to retire anyway, regardless of the pandemic. So I feel as long as things don't get too bad, as long as there's not too big a drop and workers are not laid off, there's an opportunity for workers that churn to get redeployed, to have good careers, to find the next thing. I think the market can absorb good talent for quite some time.
Chris, just recently this morning, GDP down again. Now, that'll obviously foster further talk about us being in a recession, but whether we are officially or not, uncertainty in the job market can kind of make it feel like we are in one. LinkedIn has done a poll that showed about 6 out of 10 people are worried or really worried about the uncertainty of the economy. So what can an employee do if they feel like their job might be in jeopardy? What about recession job search strategies, Chris?
So I heard it called that we're in a pre-session.
Yeah.
It made me laugh. But high inflation, there's less money around. There's some layoffs. They're just high profile, though. There's still not a lot of them. And businesses are seeing less demand, and they're making some adjustments so they can get to the next uptick, frankly. But here's what I am recommending. Here's what my company is recommending. And this is what we really never do. This is stuff that gets set aside. But I think everybody should keep their resume updated quarterly. It's a really good practice anyway. I don't remember the skills and certifications and new things I did. So if you just put that on your calendar for a half hour every quarter on a Saturday morning, it's just a really good thing to do. And you know what? It's a good time to find a pro to help you if that's not your thing. Placers will do that for you. If you need some simple help, we're always there. And, there's no charge for simple stuff. I'm hearing this a lot. I'm remote or I'm working from home. I'm recommending that people, you have a group that you work with, but get more visible in the business. Volunteer for projects that are, more company-facing. And if you can, get into the office a bit to interface with other people in the business or other senior leaders. I highly recommend it because there's just study after study that suggests it may be great to work from home. It is hard for people to see your work outside of your core team. Another one, I really think it's important to understand where you work. What do I mean? What's your company's track record during downturn? I'm not saying not to love where you work or love your boss or any of that stuff, but your industry, culture of your business, even your company's recent performance will enable you to read the tea leaves on how they behave during downturns. Because let's face it, there's upturns followed by downturns, and we hope another uptick. So you just have to understand where you are, and I think it can just help you get a sense of things. Because quite frankly, many companies don't really make adjustments when some do it every cycle. And you just have to lift your head and really realize where you are. And then finally, it is a little personal for me. I have a podcast called Outside Insights, and I have one on how to find a career agent. I think everybody should have one, and it's myplacers.com want-career-agent, and it's free. It's just good listening. I think people should have somebody helping navigate their career, and I produce that so that, quite frankly, I didn't have to give that half-hour talk every day, Pete.
Chris, as I listen to you with those last responses, it occurs to me that, such great ROI, return on investment of your time, doing the things you speak to now while your job is still secure. Too many people wait too long, and not only are you behind the eight ball, but then you're also in panic mode when your job's right on the precipice or your job goes away to then be thinking about some of the things you just laid out for us. So, it's a great investment of time and effort to do it while things are on stabler ground.
And by the way, Pete, the world sees you coming when you're in that mode of desperation or, feeling a little off with it. Do it when you're confident. Do it when you're whole. Do it proactive. And you're right. It simply feels good and it feels better. But I find that a ton of people, it's vacation time. It's fun to plan a vacation or a weekend down the beach. This stuff's hard. But, when there's changes at work, all of a sudden this hard stuff becomes really important. So do it now.
Sounds good. Chris Burkhard, Placer Staffing, joining us. Chris, thank you so much. We'll talk again soon, okay?
Thanks, Peter.
All right, 9:44 here on AM 1150, 101.7 FM, and WDEL.com.